Hello, this is Brian. This is my YouTube channel, and this is my introduction to it. So, I'm a yoga teacher. I've been teaching about 19 years now, and practicing for over 20 years. So I like yoga. It's really good for me, and with this channel, what I hope to do is just share with you my yoga practice, which is what I call Shantipath yoga, which has to do a little bit, not so much with the style of yoga, but using yoga as a form of body prayer, and working more from the inside out with intention, and working that way. So with this channel, I'm going to share my yoga practice. I also hope to share poetry, both my poetry and others. I love poetry and I love reading it, so you're going to be my my audience. And I also hope sometimes to share just some yoga teachings within my yoga practice, and just some thoughts of mine, and hopefully they'll be insightful ones for you. But anyway, I hope you kind of stick around. I'm just starting this channel, so there should be some evolution, and hopefully I'll get better at it as I go along. So first I want to talk about my yoga practice, Shantipath yoga, and how it evolved. I was practicing yoga for quite a few years and enjoyed it. It was helpful for my body. I've used it to heal 2 shoulder injuries, back issues, very, very good for me. But there's like several years ago, I really began to become aware that I was becoming more angry and frustrated. Even though I'm like a yogi and a Buddhist guy meditating, I was frustrated and angry. I was like turning into an angry old man, and I wasn't that old at that time. So with that realization, I decided, well, what should I do? I could either just kind of give it all up and just get on a whole bunch of drugs or something to try to keep me calm, or kind of up the ante. So that's what I decided to do, is more like up the ante with my practices. Not so much practicing more, because I'm just a householder guy. I gotta work, I gotta be out in the community. But to try to find practices that really kind of help me soften a little bit, that will help me just have more peace in myself, and peace, and express that peace, Cultivate more equanimity, just more balance, and be a little happier. That's what I want to do. So the first thing that came across is, I remember I think it was like in a spring day, and I was working in our living room, and I don't remember whether I was painting or something like that, and I had NPR on, and Kristen Tippett, who was doing a show at that time called, I think it was called Speaking of Faith at that time. It's now called On Being. So she was interviewing a flow yoga teacher, Sean Korn, and she was talking about using her yoga practice as a form of body prayer, where essentially, she would either hold somebody or her or some idea in her mind, or maybe say a prayer or something, and then flow through a sun salutation, kind of using the body to express that prayer. And it really struck with me. And this is like what I'm looking for. And I also have to say, at that time too, yoga was good for me, but it felt very self-centered, very physical. And so I like this idea of using yoga not just about the body, but more about healing the soul and working with the soul. So I began to experiment with it. And I heard her on NPR in, I think, the spring. And then the following fall, I was able to attend a workshop up at in Estes Park, a yoga workshop that she was part of. I think it was through Yoga Journal, and was on this body prayer, so I got to experience with her. So I began to experiment with it, work with it, saying prayers. I worked with these blessings, from Buddhism, may I be healthy, happy, and free from suffering, and working with that. And it was pretty helpful. And then later, this is like in 2011, I came across an article in Yoga International, and it was written by Rolf Sovik in that winter issue of Yoga International. And I think it was entitled Call for Peace. And then it was more recently published online in 2013 as Prayer for Peace. And it's really worth a read. You can still go, Yoga International is no longer a magazine, but it's a wonderful online source for teachers or practices, and I really recommend it. So, reading that really had a profound effect on me, and I read it several times, and it just kept like, well, this sounds really good. So essentially, Shanti Patha. Patha means calling out for, and Shanti means peace or harmony and balance. So Shanti, and I want to say Shanti means more than peace. It could also mean harmony, tranquility, calmness of mind. And the prime mantra of Shantipatha is, you may be familiar with it, is Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And essentially in Vedic times, the first Shanti was meant to be like directed out towards the heavens. And then the second Shanti was more directed towards the community. You wanted peace and balance in the community. And then the third Shanti was meant to be your own individual self. And so I liked it. I liked that, and I thought that was good. So I began to work with Om Shanti 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 as a mantra, as just a daily mantra to work with my malas as I walk around the community, as I ride buses, just kind of reciting that mantra. And I liked it. So it seemed to help me. At least if I was thinking about Shanti, I wasn't thinking about hurting somebody or, spinning out of control or anything like that. Shortly after reading that article, I worked with it as a recitation, a mantra. But then I began to think about, well, I could interweave it in with my asana practice, my body prayer practice. So that's what I did. I started to experiment with bringing it in to my practice. So essentially, how I do the practice, and when you view my video streams on my Shantipatha Yoga, you'll get that sense of it. But I actually work with two mantras. I work with Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, but I also work with the mantra Soham, the breath mantra. And essentially Soham means I am that. And the that it's talking about is representing our truest self, and what I like to call my most authentic self. And so how I work with it is usually I start my practice standing in mountain pose. And a lot of times I work with like groups or people and do like a little prayer or a little blessing in my mind. And then on the in-breath, I recite in my mind, so hum, as I bring my hands to my heart in the prayer position. But I focus my attention on that throat chakra, the Vishuddha chakra, which deals with authentic expression, speaking our truth. So the idea is so hum from my most authentic self. So from bubbling up from inward, from my most authentic self. See, that's the in-breath. And then on the exhale, I chant as I move my hands down. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And then the in-breath, I just sweep up. And then I go through the flow, either a sun salutation or some sequence. And I just repeat it with each sun salutation or sequence. So it really helps me to get out of my body and use that yoga also about not only myself, wishing peace for myself, but for others. So it really has lightened my practice in a way that I like, where it's not so self-centered. And I also say where in the Vedic times they kind of started that one was for calming the heavens and then the community and that. I work with it with a different way. I work a lot with visualizations. I like visualizations. So when I'm doing it, my most authentic self, so I let that first Shanti, I kind of visualize it kind of bubbling up, from my most authentic self, from me. So that first Shanti is from me. And then the other two Shanti, 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 Shanti. I just kind of visualize these concentric circles of energy just flowing out and just kind of like ripples, like you throw a stone into calm water. It has these circles that flow outward. So that's kind of how I think of it, like this, from my most authentic self, so hum. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And just let that energy flow outward. It's really nice. So I hope you'll watch some of my Shantipatha video streams. I'm going to tie them into themes. My first one I'm done is working also with the poem by Mary Oliver entitled Messenger. So I'll be kind of working with that. So, and I hope you'll watch me more than once and see the evolution of this practice. And again, I just want to mention I also will be sharing Shantipatha pranayama and meditation practices in shorter streams with that too. So anyway, this is Brian and welcome to my YouTube channel, and I hope you come back again and visit. Thank you. Namaste.